Hi, this is going to be a book review of Pilgrim at Teaker Creek by Dillard. This is going to be a half-assed review, sort of. It's, it's Jacob's fault. I'm just going to read a few passages from it um, so you can get the idea of how the book is and all that. So this is the first one. I wonder how long it would take you to notice the regular recurrence of the seasons if you were the first man on earth. What would it be like to live in open-ended time, broken only by days and nights? You could say, "It's cold again. It was cold before." But you couldn't make the key connection and say, "It was cold this time last year," because the notion of year is precisely the one you lack. Assuming that you hadn't yet noticed any orderly progression of heavenly bodies, how long would you have to live on earth before you could feel with any assurance that any particular long period of cold would in fact end? While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. God makes this guarantee very early in Genesis to a people whose fears on this point had perhaps not been completely allayed. It must have been fantastically important at the real beginnings of human culture to conserve and relay this vital seasonal information so that the people could anticipate dry or cold seasons and not huddle on some November rock, hoping pathetically that spring was just around the corner. So that's one. I thought that was just an interesting idea. I really like this sort of prehistoric, Paleolithic stuff, so that it kind of touches on that, how important seasonal information is. And here's another one. Through the window over my desk comes a drone. Drone, drone, the weary winding of cicadas' horns. If I were blasted by a meteorite, I think I could call it blind chance and die cursing. But we live creatures are eating each other, who have done us no harm. We're all in this mason jar together, snapping at anything that moves. If the pneumococcus bacteria had flourished more vitally, if it had colonized my other lung successfully, living and being fruitful after its created kind, then I would have died my death, and my last ludicrous work would have been an Easter egg. An Easter egg painted with beaver and deer. An Easter egg that was actually, in fact, even as I painted it and the creatures burgeoning in my lung, fertilized. It is ridiculous. What happened to manna? Why doesn't everything eat manna? Into what rare air did the manna dissolve that we harry the free, live things, each other? So that's another good one. Because really, it's horrible that people eat animals, but it's hard to stop. And then I have one more section from this book that I really like. It's near the end. And then I'll give like a general impression of the book afterwards, I guess. Last year, I saw 3 migrating Canada geese flying low over the frozen duck pond where I stood. I heard a heart-stopping blast of speed before I saw them. I felt the flayed air slap at my face. They thundered across the pond and back again. I swear I have never seen such speed, such single-mindedness, such flailing of wings. They froze the duck pond as they flew, they rang the air, they disappeared. I think of this now, and my brain vibrates to the blurred bastinado of feathered bone. Our God shall come, it says in a psalm for Advent, and shall not keep silence. There shall go before him a consuming fire, and a mighty tempest shall be stirred up round about him. It is the shock I remember. Not only does something come if you wait, but it pours over you like a waterfall, like a tidal wave. You wait in all naturalness, without expectation or hope, emptied, translucent, and that which comes rocks and topples you, It will shear, loose, launch, winnow, grind. And I think that's a really good point too, because it seems like that's happened in my life where I wanted something, it didn't come, I stopped wanting it, and then I finally got it. So I guess that can be with knowledge, a certain book you're trying to understand, poems you're trying to understand. If you just give it time, you'll probably understand it, or with pretty much anything else. Of course, hard work is good, but... And sort of impression of the book. So it's a nonfiction. Annie Dillard spends some time in Tinker Creek at Virginia, and she spends her days walking around Tinker Creek, the nature park, and then she spends the nights reading and writing. And it's a lot of it consists of observations of insects or plants, mostly because I guess Tinker Creek didn't have many animals. And then she'll also give examples from her reading. Like one of the examples is she read a book about the first record of cataract removal in like the early 1900s, I think. And she relates a couple scenes from the book where these people had been blind their whole life from cataracts from birth, and then they get them removed, and their brain has to reshuffle itself so they can, take visual input again. And she talks about how they have trouble noticing depth because they don't know yet that stuff gets smaller the farther it goes away, or they don't know what a shadow is. They think a shadow is like a separate thing, like just a black splotch rather than light being blocked. And another little funny scene from it is she reads about these two teenage girls. They both were blind for their whole lives, but one of them gets the cataracts removed and she can see. And then she like whispers to her friend that guys are actually nothing like trees. They had like a little mythology, I guess, for them that guys were like trees, and that ended up not being true. And then another scene from that same like cataract book is people would describe things as looking like blotches of light, rather than when they look at a tree, they may see like the brown of the trunk and then some highlights whenever we would see a tree only. And she said, and it's kind of like how a painter sees, I would assume. And she says that she tries to see things that way. She tries to see the splotches of color rather than the image, preconceived image she has in her head of what she's seeing. And that can apply to other people. Like, I guess after you meet a bunch of people, you're probably more inclined to fit them in a personality category rather than spend time thinking about what they're actually like. I've noticed I do that, and it's kind of the same thing. Try to see the splotches of light in people rather than the hipster or, I don't know, something else. And then a lot of the quotes she takes from the book are from prominent scientists or theologians. She quotes Thomas Merton quite a lot. She quotes Pascal, Einstein. There's actually a funny scene like within the first 10 pages. She describes going into a field seeing a bunch of cattle, and then she just has the instinct, I guess, to run into the field and try to scare the cattle. She starts saying nonsense words like, peanut butter, lightning, and trying to scare the cattle. And then it struck me like within 2 pages, she starts talking about Pascal and Einstein's views of God within 2 pages. So that kind of gives an idea of how the book is structured. It goes very light to more heavy pretty quickly. Yeah, and I would just say it's a really comforting book, partially because the ideas in it are consoling, and then also it's just nice to read what a smart person has written. You don't have to do extra work. And then I think I'll read a poem too. I've been reading a lot of Archibald MacLeish lately. He wrote a really good poem, Epistle to be Left in the Earth. I'm not going to read that one, but if you haven't heard of him yet, you should read that one. There's also a recording of him reading it on YouTube, if you're interested. But I'm going to read a different one by him. The title's kind of weird. It's 1892-19 blank, like someone's birthday to death day. Okay, so here it is, Archibald MacLeish. There will be little enough to forget. The flight of crows, a wet street, the way the wind blows, moonrise, sunset. 3 words the world knows, little enough to forget. It will be easy enough to forget. The rain drips through the shallow clay, washes lips, eyes, brain. The rain drips in the shallow clay. The soft rain will wash them away. The flight of crows, the way the wind blows, moonrise, sunset, will wash them away to the bare hard bones, and the bones forget. And yeah, Archibald MacLeish is good. I have his collected poems sitting in my Amazon cart, but I buy too many books, so I can't buy it. But yeah, how I got his collected poems was I rented it or borrowed it from the school library. The last time someone checked it out was a month after I was born. So I reset that clock. Oh, and also another cool thing, my birthday is coming up, and I was one day just talking randomly because I heard Einstein had like pictures of James Clerk Maxwell, Isaac Newton, maybe someone else, in his office. Like he could look up for inspiration. Like I can't give up because they didn't, or their genius is inspiring. And I was saying it would be cool to have some pictures of poets. I was going to print some out maybe. And my dad is a really good artist, so he said he would do one for me. So I thought the most aesthetic one would be Walt Whitman. So he finished it today and he gave it to me. So here it is. it's really good. But yeah. So I'm really happy. It was a good early birthday present. Yeah, I have school tomorrow. Hopefully it'll go well. I'm gonna try to meet. Oh shoot, this is not a blog. Okay. I hope you read Pilgrim at Tinker Creek and Archibald MacLeish's poems. All right, bye.